This week, we have a technical segment based on the response to Atomic Arch. So we'll talk about an updated open source tool that I'm currently writing that will help you catch malicious packages and update your system. Then in the security news, Exploitarium, a messy, hot summer of vulnerabilities, AI squatting, Linux LPE, there's no shortage of those. Fingerprinting Favicons. Windows 10 has been extended, if you pay. Can close make you invisible to facial recognition? Fable and Mythos for all. Do we care about quantum cryptography? Execs have AI risk completely under control. Biological warfare in spyware. The scripts in scope for PCI, and we don't have privacy, but we might get age restrictions. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Coming to you from the Hacker Syndicate Studios, this is Paul's Security Weekly. It's episode number 933, being recorded on Wednesday, July 1st, 2026. I'm Paul Sidorian, joined by Mr. Jeff Mann. Jeff, welcome.
Did you say PCI?
I said PCI. We've actually talked about this before, but we'll talk about it again, I suppose.
Now you've piqued my interest.
Mr. I don't use Arch, by the way. Larry Pesce is here with us.
Hey, Paul. Good to be here. I'm ready to go on vacation. We're taking a couple of days off to do nothing.
Nice. It's good. Mr. Sam Bound is here with us. Sam, welcome.
Good evening. Glad to be with you.
Mr. Dave Johnson. Dave, welcome.
Hey, how's it going? I am not in compliance, nor do I use Arch.
There you go. Josh Marpet is here with us. Josh, welcome.
I have used Arch at good Lord, at Paul's request, and it has always ended in abject patching over and over and over.
Well, I have a solution for
again.
That. I have a solution for that.
I use Mac and Debian most of the time.
We do have an announcement. Let's be real. Your scanners are dumping thousands of vulns, half of them noise, and you still don't know what's actually exploitable in your environment. Patching everything isn't possible. Well, it is, but maybe it's not. And chasing CVSS isn't working. At the Vulnerability Management Virtual Cybersecurity Summit, learn how to prioritize based on exploitability, reduce false positives, and actually fix what matters. Security Weekly listeners can register for free at securityweekly.com/vuln management. Use the promo code CSS26-SW. I don't know when is that actually happening, and why am I not involved in that in any capacity? July 29th. July 29th is when it's happening.
That's going to conflict pretty badly with DEF CON.
It could.
Maybe
People
more Black
traveling
Hat
too.
than DEF CON.
Well, besides Las Vegas and Black Hat, and it's going to conflict with travel.
Yes. Alrighty. Going to share my screen and talk about the updates I've made to my Arch system update utility. I've talked about this utility before on the show.
Can you expand page width so it's more legible for people?
I think I can. Or not.
For anybody else that's got old eyes.
No.
Wait, I'm on a 49-inch screen. I could just...
I'm already in...
You could just get closer, Jeff.
You could just make it bigger for
just make it
God's
bigger.
sake, Jeff.
Yeah, sorry, that's as big as it gets.
Jeff, it's not a 12-inch cyan monitor, okay? Make it bigger.
Look, he can't adjust the size because he uses Arch.
That's right. That's right.
That was good,
You just
Sam.
gotta get
I'm
better
never
prescription
complaining
glasses.
again because now I can see it.
So you can find this on my GitHub. The links will be in the show notes. And I made updates to my updater script that I've been working on for some time since I switched to Manjaro eons ago. But this is really the updates I've made are in direct response to what we call Atomic Arch. So at some point this month, they discovered that around 1,500 AUR packages were compromised in a single coordinated attack. This was very much a supply chain attack. These packages were adopted and modified for, I believe, was it like 24 hours time frame? Yeah, 24-hour window. And malicious threat actors put malicious things inside of these build scripts. And we'll talk about how AUR packages are structured, what it is, and how people use it. But it's interesting on, Arch or Manjaro or Arch Linux-based distributions. We really like the AUR or the Arch user repository. And it's really one reason why I switched to an Arch-based distribution, because there's something like over 90,000 packages, like basically pre-packaged in the AUR, representing like most of what I need when I need to install some software package or utility. Someone else in the community has packaged up a build script for that, which tends to work on most Arch-based Linux installs. So I don't have to hassle with the dependencies or other issues. Someone else has done that and published it for the community to use. Now, the double-edged sword and the downside of that is these are all community maintained. Much like all the open source software that we use is essentially community maintained, but there's no code signing or automatic security checking. It's essentially, think of when you install an AUR package, a curl to bash on your system. The nice part is, though, the way they have done the architecture for some of the tools used to install AUR packages is you can build in a bunch of checks. And that's exactly what I've done in my script to do some basic supply chain checking will be the focus. So the bad part about the way they do AUR, and I hope they move to a model that fixes this with some vetting. And one reason this attack was able to occur is if a package is abandoned or orphaned, as they call it, that means there's no current maintainer. And anyone with an account in AUR, you can go create an account today, can just go adopt a package and start maintaining it. And there was no vetting to that. So I believe where we stand today is that they've not allowed any new accounts to happen for AUR until they fix that problem, right? And this is a problem that's been solved by other package, Flatpak and Snap both have a way to do that kind of vetting. So I'm assuming that will happen. You're probably sick of the word agent, but here's the problem. Your dev team is handing every new agent in your cloud way more permissions than it needs. And when one goes rogue, you've got 4 minutes before your data's gone. You need a default deny button that doesn't break every workload. That's Sunry's Cloud Permission Firewall. Native IAM controls, not newfangled AI nonsense. Default deny on every agent and human identity automatically. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Sunry. That's SONRAI.
There is vetting done on certain package management systems like Flatpak and Snap. It is not done, as far as I know, by ecosystems. This is one of the things I just started studying a few months ago. It is god awful. There are so many packages that are abandoned that, and abandoned means that they haven't had an update in over a year, basically. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's not a mature package, which may not have updates that often, but it's still maintained. But it's been abandoned. The maintainer is gone. And people are still downloading them. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these packages across
this is not a problem.
Right.
Exactly. This is not a problem unique to AUR. This is in every, package management system. While FlatHub may validate their maintainers a little better, a Flatpak can still call a third-party dependency, and there's no check there. So if someone wants to go on the upstream third-party dependency, well, now your Flatpak package is installing malware. So again, this is not unique to Arch Linux or AUR. The malware was pretty interesting. It was stealing tokens. It installed a shim to grab your logons via sudo. And it also had an eBPF hook as well to monitor for certain activity. So what's interesting about and what separates these AUR things is there's what's called a package build. You can see that text here. So the package build is essentially a bash script that tells your machine how to configure and install the package. That's different from a lot of other package management systems that pre-compile or pre-compute that installation on a server somewhere and just give you the binaries that you need to download, right? Like the apt package repository works in that way. AUR is somewhat different in that packaging, compilation, installation, and configuration happens on your own system. Now that has its advantages, right? Because if it breaks, I can see exactly why it's broken. I can go in and fix it. I can look at the package build prior to installation, make fixes. If it breaks on my system, I can go back in, and I actually had done this before, and go fix the package build so it builds on my system. So there are some advantages to having it there. So the package build is, you could like install that with a command line utility called make package that would then make an Arch Linux package, a ZST, very similar to a .deb, and then you would use Pacman, for example, to install that package. In the Arch Linux world, we have what's called AUR helpers, right? Those are tools that run that package build for you, maybe do some other checking and offer you other nice features, and then install that package for you in one fell swoop. So thankfully, the Arch security team caught it, but only after 24 hours had passed, which is a pretty small time window. So I actually did have one of the affected packages on my system, but I was not installing it at the time where the supply chain was compromised. So I very promptly removed that packages, as well as several others that I'll show you, basically how I cleaned up a lot of my systems to be more resilient moving forward, right? And so what my script does is identify these situations where a package could potentially be used in a supply chain attack. So my script actually helps highlight those things. So what my script does, so this is the update.sh script for my Linux hacks directory. It does all the routine maintenance. Josh, you mentioned before, updating sometimes Arch Linux systems can be problematic. This script represents probably over 3 years of me running into an issue and then putting it into the script to do some pre-checking so I don't run into that issue again. And one issue that you run into is like the very first thing it does, first couple of things it does is update your package repository, right? So like apt update, so update the list of available packages. But it also does the cache cleaning. So if you've got a stale cache, those are the two things that bit me updating systems. If I wasn't updating to the latest repos and package lists, and then I wasn't cleaning the cache from previously installed packages, that just creates a higher likelihood that you're going to run into an issue. So when I update my systems, I built it in my script. So every time I run my script, I have a little more patience because it's updating the repositories and it's cleaning all my build caches. It's just a couple of things that it does. We'll talk about what the term orphan is kind of oversubscribed here. We'll talk about what that means. I've covered like the pack new configuration merging. I'll talk a little about rebuild detection, kernel management, and firmware updates I've covered previously. So I did actually run this. I have not tested this as much as I would have liked, but I did test it on my system that I'm more diligent about keeping up to date. And then one of my other Manjaro systems, which is not my primary one, was a little more out of date, and I used the script to clean it up, and it worked great. But also a word of caution, like I'm still actively developing a lot, especially these new features. So please use this with caution. Let me know if you run into any issues. So the big feature that I added was live AUR metadata checks, inclusion of indicators of compromise. So others have published indicators of compromise for the supply chain attack, including maintainer usernames, package names, and the things to look for in a package build file that could be suspicious that it's been backdoored. And what I'll show you, one of the things that Claude and I built together was a Lua script that before you install the package, inspects the package build and these other artifacts for certain things. And right now we'll give you a warning. So it doesn't actually halt the process, but it does give you a warning like, hey, you're about to install a package that matches like a known malicious maintainer or is a package that was on the compromised list, and several other indicators that I think are interesting for supply chain security, including, hasn't been orphaned, has the maintainer changed recently, all that telemetry now is available to us in the Yay package. So Yay is the utility that we use to update AUR packages. Yay is very much more advanced than some of the system utilities like PA-MAC for doing this. It actually exposes APIs for you to interact with and gives you the Lua scripting language, which is
So
awesome.
is that also what the AUR package compromisers said when they got one in was yay?
Yay. So I said yay. They said
Sorry.
yay like, I don't know, over 100 times. I think it was over 100 packages that were compromised, which I'm actually glad this happened, because now I feel like we can adopt a better security model than the previous poor security model that was in place.
Would you be implementing a fundamental, basic, or foundational model?
What?
A model.
That's a trick question.
So I mean, I'm, by the way, Paul, I'm happy to feed you data if you want from my data sources. We're watching about I'm lying. We're watching about 550,000 packages,
Nice.
including maintainers. If you want, I'll
Yes.
just give you access to that data and you can put it
That would be
into your
awesome.
tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love that. Yeah. So one of the things it does is an AUR security audit. So it looks at foreign packages. It builds an audit table that I'll talk about with ages, out-of-date flags, and things like that. So I'll talk about what's in that table. And then a separate functionality to do the IOC scan, right? So based on public sources that list IOCs, it will actually check for them. So, let's talk about this Arch package ecosystem. So when you use Pacman is the tool is specific to Manjaro. PA-MAC is the tool specific to Manjaro that will update your official system packages in addition to your AUR packages, but it is not full-featured tool for updating AUR. Pacman is the official Arch Linux updater. It handles all of those pre-packaged packages just for Arch. They're cryptographically signed. They're maintained by the Arch Linux team. So think of Pacman like the Apple App Store, right? It's vetted. AUR is like side-loading an app on your Android device. So AUR, Arch User Repository, is that Wild West. I talked about the package build file. It's really just a bash script. It has 90,000 packages, which is kind of nice. Also kind of bad that like you have to pick which one that you want to install. Sometimes people package the same software in various forms, and you have to pick the best one. So my tool will actually help you with that. So then you have the AUR helper. So if you want Arch user repository packages, those third-party packages, if you will, there's a few tools that do it. Yay is one of the ones I talked about, right? Written in Go, has Lua hooks, and it's what I use now by default when I update my systems. It is the default in my update.sh script.
I swear, he just does it because it's Yay. I agree with you, Larry.
It's Yay. I didn't pick the name.
You just use it because of the name, though.
Yeah. So this is where some confusion can arise. When we talk about foreign or alien packages, we're really just talking about not just AUR packages, but any other software that you installed, maybe using something like Yay or PA-MAC, but it was a package that you got that didn't come from an official repository. That could be an AUR package, or it can be a package that you created. There's ways to convert Debian.deb packages into the ZST package for Arch. Maybe you did that. So those are sometimes they're called foreign packages, sometimes they're called alien packages. And you can get those by running that pacman command. We'll show you the packages that are installed that aren't in the official repository. That's what we call a foreign or alien package. Now, an orphan or often orphan dependency is in the context of Pacman in your system packages or your AUR packages, is a package to install as a dependency for something else, but then that package doesn't need it anymore. Therefore, it's just kind of like a dangling dependency. So the package is there, it's installed in your system, but nothing's using it. That's what we call an orphan dependency. So that can crop up with system packages. It can also crop up in a similar manner with Python packages as well. So when Python gets an update on your system to 3.14, any package that was referencing 3.12 or 3.13 Python has to be like rebuilt. And so could also be referencing orphan packages, or maybe you remove those packages and broke the dependency. But all of that is auditable and fixable within Arch Linux, and is one thing my tool will help you with. Every time you update packages, it's going to tell you, like, hey, you've got some orphan dependencies. Hey, you've got to rebuild these packages because their system dependencies have changed. You got to rebuild these packages because they're relying on a Python thing that you've changed. So rather than like me doing that manually, that's why I created this script. It just tells me these things when I run it and goes, hey, like what do you want to do with these orphan packages? You want to remove them? Do you want to rebuild your packages against the new thing? Do you want to update your Python packages? It walks you through all of that in every build, because keeping up with it definitely helps you not have a system that has like heinous problems. Now, orphaned packages in AUR mean something different. That means that there is no longer a maintainer. So the maintainer has gone away. The maintainer field will actually be null, and the tool will flag it as an orphaned package in AUR. And again, I hope they fix this. An orphaned package could be picked up by anyone with an account within AUR. So I hope they prevent that from happening and do some kind of vetting process for that. But the nice part about Yay and the tools I built is that it gives you all of this telemetry. So this telemetry is available. There's actually an API from Arch Linux that you can query and give you information about each AUR package. So I query that. It also lets you do diffs and edit the package build file. It can show you, for example, if you're installing an update to a AUR package you already have installed, Yay can show you a diff of your package build and go, hey, this was the original one. This is the new stuff. And when you look at the new stuff, you go, wait, why is there a new SSH authorized key being installed in this new package build? That's bad. I shouldn't install it. So that's kind of nice. It also uses Lua, enables Lua and gives you hooks. So it'll allow you to run Lua code before a package is installed, after a package is installed, and at different times. And these Lua hooks, I've coded to actually look inside the package build and look for nefarious things. So before you install it, you actually don't have to do the diff. I actually coded up some Lua scripts that actually validate some of this stuff. So it'll tell me like, hey, you're about to install this package and it's got this bad stuff inside of it. And that's how I'm doing that, is in that Lua hook, which is pretty cool.
Did you run a comparison between the viability of doing the diff versus intentionally looking for things that can be interpreted as malicious? I'm curious, like, what that process looked like.
I'm sorry, say your question again, Dave.
So you mentioned that, if I'm understanding correctly, you could have done a diff of the two different packages, like to find things that might be incorrect. And potentially malicious, but it sounds like you're using more of a targeted search for things that are malicious.
Yep.
Did you create did you analyze like the viability of those, of that intentional targeted search versus doing a diff and going, hey, that's not right. I don't care what it is. And I can't necessarily determine whether it's malicious or not, but I know it shouldn't be there.
Yeah. I didn't do anything programmatically. I did make it so that when you run it, you, as a human, you can look at the diff. I didn't do anything programmatically with the diff. Okay. I was just, like you said, specifically looking in the package build with Lua for malicious things, or potentially
pretty
malicious
cool
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? Like, you think about this, like Arch Linux and this ecosystem aside, these are things you want to pay attention to in the supply chain.
What would you think about sending the diff to an AI to tell you if it's malicious?
I've
seen people report that.
Yeah, I was considering that as well. I have applications that I have used various models to do certain things. I think in my vulnerability tool, I use it to determine affected products if the vendor hasn't listed it. So for certain tasks, AI is really good. Analyzing something from maliciousness that's a good use case. Of course, I'd have to pick a model and integrate an API, and you'd have to pay for tokens or find a free model, to do it. But
Yeah.
So I just threw into Slack, and I'm happy to throw it wherever anybody wants. But I just threw into Slack what we examine in the research report on maintainers, and it might be interesting to you.
Yeah. So in the report, what I'm super kind of proud of is the more of the like approach, right? Because other people have talked about this, and I'm like, you're not getting it like completely right. Because what you want to look at in an AUR audit, right, is a couple of different things. And one thing it will indicate for me, and it gets this from the API with the Yay, is that if the maintainer has changed. So if you're installing a package, I don't actually have an example of that, but one thing it'll do is if you're have a package that's installed on your system, you download an update. Before it installs that update, it'll go, hey, the maintainer has changed. And that could be an indication of a supply chain attack. It will also look at the age of the package. How old is it? And when's the last time it was changed? And so one of the other indicators is if this package hasn't been updated in 1,000 days or more, or a year, whatever, and now you're installing it and it has changed, you might want to look at that. Not as strong of an indicator, but an indicator nonetheless. I actually especially like it, like some of these packages over 1,000 days, right, haven't been updated. And if it's recently changed, that will be an indicator. Also, users can actually go into the system and flag a package as out of date. So you can see my Mailspring package has been flagged like by a human is going, hey, that's out of date. And I know that, and I've done some investigation and it's totally fine, but something that might warrant an investigation. The other thing is I've cleaned all of them out of my system, but one of the other states that it'll give you here is in the flags, it'll tell you if it's been orphaned. And that's a programmatic thing. It will list orphan in the fields from the API. And so I've purged my system of all orphaned packages, right? And so I've had to do a little bit of work, like, do I need this? Where does it come from? That kind of thing. Am I still using this software? Is it a dependency of something? But if it's been orphaned, I wiped it out of my system. And the nice part is my tool will tell you about any package that you have installed that's an orphan. And I believe it'll also warn you if you're installing an orphan package. So, like I said, I hope AUR cleans up its act. In the meantime, if you're using my script, it'll tell you about stuff you have installed or you're installing that has some of these indicators that could indicate a supply chain attack.
So how would I read? So, for instance, I saw Claude Code there, the maintainer CG505, and then it says that it's 0 days old. Is that the pack? Like, is it a positive indication?
Today.
It was updated today.
Yeah.
And then
Claude Code is updated almost every day. Like whoever's made like this maintainer right here is putting out like daily updates for Claude Code. Yeah. And actually the desktop bin is pretty good. This is actually an open source one. I have to deviate from it. But now you can get Claude Code in the desktop bin on Linux now, which is pretty wild. And it's I was like, oh my God, where has this been all my life? It's like just like a much nicer user experience. So I've been converting to that. So yeah, that is what it looks like. And you can see here it has some examples. I just went through some examples, but indicators of compromise, right? This is based on a GitHub repo. It'll look for malicious package names and other indicators of compromise in that. And then, yeah. So if you want to run both the audit and the scan, it's nice to run those together, right? So now it's going to run that audit that I did first, then it's going to run a scan. It's going to look at all the indicators of compromise and review those. So it'll also tell you like, hey, review these build files. Yeah, it's interesting. The open code desktop that I was talking about right before we started recording actually has a network fetch or a JavaScript install logic in its package build. So that's something that flags on the indicators of compromise. So it's really good. So when you run this all together, it runs all the things. I actually have a configuration file that lets you kind of configure what runs by default. My system is probably up to date because I've been testing this, but again, it's going to clean all your caches first. It's going to then ask you about any foreign and often orphaned packages. Like, do I want to remove those or not? I need to do an investigation if I still need those. So I'll leave them for now. Then it's going to update the package repository. I did spruce up the output as well. It's a little nicer. Oh, look, hey, I have updates. Cool. So it's retrieving updates now. So I did put some like standard color coding and sections inside of the tool as well. And so it's going to upgrade my packages, which is nice. And then, hey, look, this is like, I think it's saying roughly an hour and 44 minutes ago, someone issued new updates for Claude Code and Claude Desktop. It's like whoever's maintaining those tools is putting out a lot of updates. It actually found some packages not in AUR that are installed on my system, which I recognize, and I've been through that list as well. Those are packages I explicitly installed or just hanging out for whatever reason that might need further investigation. I'm going to exclude. I'm not going to update those now. Now it's going to do a rebuild check. And it's going to look for any packages, both system packages, AUR packages, and Python dependencies, and tell me if there's any package installed whose dependencies I've updated or libraries I've updated where the package needs to be rebuilt to incorporate those new libraries or dependencies. And so it did that. There is some kind of like a bug or something, like it recognizes that I have Python 3.12 installed, but there's no package that's using Python 3.12. It identifies Python 3.12 as a package on its own and says, hey, that's not 3.14, so you've got an issue. So I need to rectify that. Then the config thing, I've talked about this before, right? A package came down, it gave me a new configuration file. It doesn't clobber my existing configuration file. It gives me the new configuration file, and I basically have to go through and I have to diff the changes safely on my system. And I got a bunch of things here. And that's a great example too of, I use a lot of AI now to tell me about my system updates and help me with things. So like I can just dump this whole list into Claude or some other model and tell it like, hey, I'm running Manjaro, I'm on the latest version, and these are the files that it wants me to diff. Is there anything critical? Is there anything security related? And I think I did that, and it was like, there's nothing you need to worry about. Like, while I'm upgrading to like this kernel, they're like, make sure you pay attention to this one new configuration file change because that can bite you, kind of thing. So AI has been really great. And I've talked about this before as a system updater. It's actually made running Linux so much easier. When I updated both my systems, I used, so if you get orphan packages, I can run that through. Be like, hey, if I remove this package, like what's going to happen? Is it bad? And I qualify. I'm like, go search Reddit in the Manjaro forums. Tell me what people are saying about this package, and it'll spit back all the information I need. And it'll be like, whoa, don't do that. You need that package for XYZ, right? And it's actually been pretty accurate when you prompt it, correctly. So that's been kind of nice. I really want to build like a skill in Claude or something as like a system updater, because I've been doing it more and more. And I do it a lot for kernel updates too. I'll actually run. And so I built that into the tool, by the way. This only works in Manjaro because it uses Manjaro's kernel tool. And essentially it allows you to remove and install kernels right from the command line. And so what I'll do is, before I do this, because updating kernels is, always kind of dicey, I'll run the inksy command, and actually made an alias that runs inksy with all the command line options, gives you a whole bunch of output. I paste that into an AI model. I'm like, this is my system. I'm like, I want to go from this kernel version to this kernel version. Tell me about all the things that could go wrong. and do an analysis. And it does that really well. It actually makes great kernel recommendations for me. It'll be like, don't go to that kernel. The system I ran before, I was like, which kernels do I want to keep? Which ones do I want to move to? And it was like, move to this kernel, keep those two, but get rid of 6.18 because it's, not actively maintained, and it's just like a interim kind of release. And so I did that. And then I was like, well, now I've updated my kernels. I'm like, go, this one I actually had Larry's SSH agent. I'm like, go SSH to that system and make sure when I reboot, nothing's going to blow up. And it actually did all the checks for me.
Nice.
So it's been really great in helping maintain the systems. I know we're running short on time, but
hey, Paul, quick question. Like this is you're running Manjaro, not Arch.
well, Manjaro is just an Arch based. Yeah.
Oh,
I like Manjaro.
Larry.
Sorry, had
Yeah.
to.
But I like Manjaro because it's a little safer. They do a lot more vetting of their packages. It's not as bleeding edge as Arch. And then there's a lot more other Arch-based installs. People really like Cache for that reason.
So more stable.
Yeah, it's more stable. They do more testing before they do the actual releases and stuff like that. So it's a little less maintenance to maintain. It's Arch with training wheels, basically. Maybe that's what my t-shirt should say. I use Arch with training wheels, by the way.
That's a great T-shirt. I use
Or
Arch
with protection.
Yes. And using my awesome script, which you can get from my GitHub and test it out and give me some feedback. It's really evolved over time and gives you some great insights, I think, into not shooting yourself in the foot, both from like getting into dependency hell, updates that break, and supply chain security issues. It is available on my GitHub under Linux hacks.
GitHub.com/P Acidorian. That's 2 O's.
Yes.
/Linux_hacks. Is that?
Hacks. Yep. Linux_hacks.
Hashtag time for the news.
Time for the news.
I
Take a short break.
love the two contributors to this repo, Paul.
What's that?
Paul
Oh, Claude
Acidorian
and Paul.
Claude.
Yes, Claude and Paul. I wrote the initial scripts, and then I had Claude go through them, and I've been using Claude to
And make it better.
maintain them. Yeah.
Yep, make it better.
So, with that, take a short break. Come back with the security news. Stay tuned. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny and execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. And we are back with the security news. A lot of stuff going on as usual, including the Exploitarium. Did you guys see this?
No.
Someone put up a...
Exploitarium?
let's see if it actually opens. This repository on GitHub got taken down at least twice. But it is a repository of a whole bunch of exploits, vulnerabilities, and exploits. So essentially, this person just put it up there like, so I'll read you the description. A single archive of public exploits and vulnerability research write-ups. At the time I post these, none have been reported. Feel free to report them yourself and take credit for the CVE if handed out lulls. Please do not abuse these. I do not alert people into the field and have always found this the most efficient way. So just like,
That's a
YOLO.
rather novel idea.
YOLO, just going to publish them all like it's 25 plus years ago or whatever. I got a bunch of exploits. I'm just publishing them. Not doing disclosure. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just going to put up a GitHub with, I forget how many are in here, like a lot.
There's an Nmap exploit.
Yeah, there's an Nmap exploit in there. I haven't
Can you
tested it. It works.
configure GitHub to log on via FTP? Just for giggles?
Right?
Anonymous FTP? That would do it.
Yep.
For the full retro effect.
Yeah.
So this person did use AI in their fuzzing workflow. I kind of liked how they used GPT-5.3 for the fuzzing because it's like a good enough model to do fuzzing. You don't need a really advanced model to create a harness to do fuzzing. So I some of the less expensive models are perfect for that. I think it's a great workflow. Use a local or less expensive model for like the grunt work, and then take the results of that, and then go to your more advanced model. This person says they do actually have a degree in the subject of fuzzing, so they didn't just like throw AI willy nilly with no background, according to the write up, and wrote
There's
the
a
exploits
degree in
themselves.
fuzzing.
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna say.
yeah, well, probably a degree in.
It's sort of like fuzzing.
Yeah, maybe it's a degree in computer science or cybersecurity, and they say they've published multiple papers on fuzzing methodology. It's like their specialty in whatever degree they got was in fuzzing. So they wrote some papers on it.
Okay.
It's similar to it, at least.
Proceed.
It's just like amazing. Like I'm just, it's so nostalgic, right? Like it's great.
It's crazy.
Advice from one of my coworkers was when stuff pops up like this, it's interesting. Clone it, get a local copy of it because it has a high likelihood that it'll be taken down. So
Yep.
It's up now. Get your copy. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it'll be gone. And then you'll have to ask us directly for copy. Everyone make a copy now. Get clone. Make a copy. Just YOLO and exploits into the wild. I mean, on the one hand, I do love it, but on the other hand, it's kind of scary, right? I think it speaks to kind of a theme that in some of my stories, maybe some others as well, that AI keeps getting better at finding vulnerabilities and creating exploits, right? But not very good at helping us triage, patch, and apply the patches. At least to my knowledge and from what I've seen, everyone seems to kind of lean towards the, oh my God, look, we can create vulnerabilities and exploits. It's like is that someone's background noise?
Yeah, it's Dave all of a sudden is gotten
glitching
some
out.
background noise. Usually it's Josh that happens to. It's not Josh this time.
Yeah. Weird.
It's Jeff that happens to. I'm muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It is
But
Jeff. Josh, same difference. You're both bald.
Yeah, it's still. Yeah.
It's not me for once.
Oh.
We lost Dave. But
he's going to try to reconnect.
There have been several points over the years of doing the show where we've talked about how we need to make defense the new sexy, how we all get caught up on everyone wants to be a pen tester, everyone wants to do vulnerability research, everyone wants to find vulns and exploits. AI is helping you do all that, and it's the cool, new, fun, sexy thing to do. But where's the help on the defense, right? I mean, it's why I like the vulnerability cyber summit thing. We need to focus on the defensive aspect, the detection aspect, because that's much harder. I mean, we can, throw a model, find vulnerabilities and exploits, and you can let that stuff churn. It can be wrong 99% of the time, as long as it's right that like one time, and cool, I found a vulnerability and have a working exploit. On the defense side, to implement a patch or a detection, it should be right all the time, right? Like a detection is going to have a certain rate of false negatives, false positives, but it's much harder, I think, to implement and to maintain. So there's that. I want to see more focus on the defense and detection because it's harder. It's harder. Does the patch work in all versions? Does it work in all configurations? What are all those edge
but it's
cases?
Not
does it
sexy
break
and doesn't get you on the main stage at DEF CON.
Right. Right.
So while I agree with you, and it's easy to pontificate and say we need to focus on defense, practical steps for doing that, and I think it requires a little bit of, shall we say, attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
Somewhere I've got an article that suggests that. I forget which number it is. but on this recurring theme of, before we went on the air, I dropped fundamentals, basics, and foundations, because I was hearing all of these terms used sort of interchangeably over the weekend. I went to CyberJutsuCon in Washington, D.C., well, technically Arlington, Virginia. And I was trying to think of, is there a way for us to describe the fundamentals of cybersecurity that have to do with the things that you do with the technology, and distinguish that with the things that you do sort of strategically before you start touching the technology. And maybe one's fundamental and one's foundational and the other's basics or fundamentals. There is no set definition, so we could create something. Who's with me?
I think there's been lots of attempts
to create fundamental definitions of the terminology that we use in InfoSec.
Yep.
Can we call it fundamental basics?
Talk to your new
basic
boss.
Fundamentals.
We started something that a while ago.
I try not to talk to him.
I'll tell him you said that. No, I'm serious. We started something, the Open SBK, the Open Security Body of Knowledge. I still have an email address from there, and I'd love for it to be picked up. You're definitely a good person to pick it up. But yeah, you want to define the terms, it can be done.
I mean, I think the definitions of a lot of these terms are out there somewhere. So I think there's
collecting.
I need to agree on the terminology, but how do we disseminate it to sales and marketing so that they're using these terms?
We have commit access to PTES. Does that help?
It's jargon to me. Define your terms.
Pen test execution standard, the thing that is listed in everybody's contracts. So we have commit access to it.
Yeah, I had problems with that thing, mostly because they didn't ask me about it before they published it.
Now they did.
Jeff, I love you.
Now, as far as getting on the main stage at DEF CON, what you need is a pulse-pounding, thrilling TV series about compliance.
I don't have a TV series, but I'm working on a podcast. Does that count?
If it's very exciting and there's a comic book to go with it.
Comic book's a good idea.
You might need a theme song and a custom cigar.
Well, not a comic book, but a graphic novel. How's that?
Manga.
That's an interesting idea. They had Tiger Team for pen testing, right? What should we call it for compliance? Checkmark team?
Claims adjusters.
The clipboards.
We had a story.
I don't do compliance. I do PCI.
We had a story about PCI.
You do have a story.
And I thought this was something that we talked about, and I thought, like, it's over, it's done with. If you've got scripts on your website that are helping you process payments, you need to audit all of them. Is that the crux, Sam and Jeff, of the issue?
That's what it looked like to me. And for me, the surprise is that wasn't already required. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, this whole topic is a little triggering because the article is referring to two requirements that were new in version 4, which was published in 2022 and started to be effective in 24 and became fully enforced in 25. So with great anticipation, there was these requirements, 643 and 1161, that was focused on e-commerce sites, websites where payment information is being taken, payment card, the little pop-up where you type in your information. And it was going along great until too many vendors and certain companies that provide very easy and quick ways for you to create an e-commerce site and guarantee that if you use their platform, you're automatically PCI compliant. Shall I name names? Maybe I won't. These requirements were put into SAQA. SAQA is the shortest form of self-assessment questionnaire for e-commerce that says you don't see the credit card information. You're using a third party, so that when it's time for payment information to be included, it's rerouted, redirected to a third party, or more commonly these days, using an embedded iframe. So there was great consternation about what does this requirement mean for all these people that basically it's a paper exercise of just saying, yeah, I'm using a PCI compliant processor provider that gives me the iframe and I'm good to go. Now they were asking the merchants that have these e-commerce sites to keep track of the JavaScript that's showing up not on the checkout page, not on the little pop-up where you type in the information, but on the page, the prepayment page where that embedded iframe is served. Now, this article is mostly accurate. I asked the same question. Why are they bringing this up again? Why? It's like they have inventory and they're trying to get rid of it or something, because what happened in, I think, early 2024 is the council rewrote the SAQA and took these requirements out, because these were technical requirements being forced on merchants that formerly were just doing a paper pushing exercise. And that's the essence of it, of the issue. They sort of misstate in this article that if you're filling out SAQA, I think they say if you can prove that you've got 643 and 1161 covered, you can back it out. That's not exactly accurate. They're out of the SAQA. What is in is an eligibility requirement to use SAQA that says you've got these two covered. A little bit semantic, but they're technically out. They're not in the SAQA anymore. The real issue is, this is a good thing that you're going after these scripts, because this is the way that credit cards are stolen from e-commerce sites these days. They reference the Mage card attack. We call it web skimming or website skimming, because all this JavaScript that gets loaded in a consumer's browser up until PCI 4.0, nobody is really looking at them. There was no expectation of anything. It's just, and like the article says accurately, there can be dozens, if not hundreds, of JavaScript coming from all sorts of third parties that nobody's looking at, nobody's monitoring, nobody's tracking.
Executing in the context of that page, which means it's in the content security policy, which
it's
means
on the browser. It's on the consumer's browser.
And it's on the page you're doing the transaction in, and it has access to that transaction because it's within that context. So your CSP doesn't apply.
I mean, the idea of the skimming, though, it's not necessarily that it has access to the transaction page or the checkout page. It's you're intercepting it and collecting all the valid information.
Right, as it goes
skimming it as it's going to the legitimate checkout site with no checks. So great requirements. Really loved it that the council put them into the PCI and put them into SAQA, and then they caved and backed out of SAQA with some kind of very squishy, well, we put it in the eligibility requirements. The real issue is in most, I still call it e-commerce, and that's probably not really the in vogue term these days. But for sites where they're selling something, most of them these days are in the cloud somewhere. They're at a third-party hosting provider, let's say one of the cloud providers. Some other third party might be writing the code and maintaining the code that creates the web page. There's other third parties that might be pushing the inventory. I mean, that's one of the uses for JavaScript. There's a third party that's responsible for the checkout page. And then there's the merchant that's technically it's their website, it's their e-commerce site, but they don't really do anything with it because they've farmed everything out to all these different third parties. So the issue is, who's responsible? Who's on the hook for meeting these requirements when you have a scenario where everybody sort of can go like this and have an argument that, well, that's not really me, that should be somebody else.
It's like a whole bunch of Spider-Men pointing at each other.
Yeah. And so, and literally on paper, who's responsible is the merchant, because it's their PCI compliance, regardless of how many third parties. But a lot of these third parties, especially the ones that host everything and guarantee your PCI compliance, they're assuming the risk, at least they say they are. Whether they really are or not remains to be seen, but they make it so the merchants don't have to do any of the self-assessment questionnaires, the reporting, or they fill it out for them. It's like I said, it's triggering because it was going great up until they backed out these requirements from SAQA. There were a bunch of companies that were promoting things that would do the inventory of your JavaScript. Because, like I said, you can have a lot of them depending on how you've constructed your website. You can have dozens, if not hundreds, of them out there, and nobody knows what they are. So, more power to what's the company? Reflectix, was that the name of the company? More power for them promoting this, but because the council ripped the teeth out of the thing that was going to hold a lot of merchants' feet to the fire to actually do this, I think they're kind of pissing into the wind, personally.
Another topic I wanted to make sure we hit, because I miss having Bill on the show, and I hope he comes
Let's
back.
just talk about Bill.
Let's just talk about Bill. But Bill's been working on some pretty cool stuff. And Larry, your story number 4, everyone should read this. I read the entire article, and it's really good. And I knew what Bill was working on, but we hadn't delved into the details with Bill. And
to be fair, we should get him back to tell his own story.
I don't think he wants to give too many details before his Black Hat talk. So Bill's working on this project for a long time.
I think he was immersed in it when I was out there in January.
I think he may have gotten bored with or moved on from ESP32 hacking. I think Larry and I both might have done that too. That was fun on other thing. Well, you're still doing it.
Oh yeah.
I did a bunch of it after ShmooCon 2025 when you guys gave the talk, and then I got onto other projects. Bill's other project that he started working on and telling us about along the way, not a whole lot of details, but basically ways to bypass facial recognition technology. So this is more of a privacy thing. But Bill is so into this. He's very passionate about this, which I think is great, and I support him. I wish he would come back on the show, but he's pushed this to the point where he's got a website, he's got a product, he's got tons of models that he's running at home to test this stuff with, and he's prepping for a Black Hat talk. And good for Bill. I mean, we love Bill. Again, I wish he would come back on the show. Jackass.
So,
but
what he's
I think it's Black Hat and DEF CON. I think he's speaking.
Is he both? Is it both?
I think it's both, which is cool because I spoke about this in 2015. No, I spoke about this exact topic. It was one of my first DEF CON talks in 2007, 2010, somewhere in there. And he actually took that DEF CON talk and used it to build this. So I'm really proud of that. But
I think it's great when we build on each other's ideas.
I am so proud of him. It's not even funny. He did something brilliant here. By the way, he's not defeating facial recognition. He's defeating facial detection. These systems don't even know that there's a face there in the first place.
Right.
And
there's
largely
no face to detect.
Yeah, and largely after much testing, Bill figured out if you can wear certain clothing, that would defeat the detection.
Yeah, Adam Harvey, 20 years ago,
and specific patterns.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds more like, without going in, I haven't heard any of the details, but it sounds more like the Romulan cloaking device.
It's not. It's not. I can still see the person. You can still see the person. But the idea is, it's actually more like the Dazzle camouflage. It's Dazzle camouflage from World War I. But if you remember Dazzle camouflage for ships, it's very high contrast paint because you're going to look and not see a ship. You're not going to see the pattern you expect. So that's why Adam Harvey 20 years ago, Jesus, I'm getting friggin' old, did CV Dazzle, which was very specific, like couture makeup, so that it didn't see that there was a face there. It screwed up the shadow patterns. It's very cool.
So I wasn't previously familiar with the Dazzle camo from World War II. I just looked it up. All I see is Beetlejuice.
You win. You win. Well done, sir.
Dave, sandworms, right?
So I really like this project as well. And then my brain starts thinking about, what's the minimum viable thing that you can add to yourself that would defeat the image recognition for faces? Is it gloves?
UV LEDs.
Yeah, in this case.
Yeah.
Has that been tested in
IR
Bill's
LEDs?
model?
Sorry, not UV. IR
Oh, okay.
LEDs. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can put IR LEDs on a ball cap, very, very high output IR LEDs, 5 or 10 of them, and with a battery in the top of the ball cap, and it can't even see your face.
Nice.
Of course, when you look through a camera, it's, when a person looks at the monitor screen and they see somebody with a halo of light around their head, it's going to be kind of obvious you're trying to stay hidden, but it's possible to do it very quickly.
What about tattoos? Clothes are good, but what if you need a backup in case those clothes are not available to you at that moment in time?
Well, see, and Dave, here's the thing that I think with Bill's research is that he's been extracting the AI models from the actual hardware, and it's and I think Bill probably expects it's probably going to be a little bit of a whack-a-mole type of situation. Is that he's going to create some clothing patterns that the AI can't detect that there's a face present, and he's kind of mentioned a little bit in the article that he's expecting that at some point the AI in those will get better and will now be able to detect faces around those patterns. So he's going to have to update the patterns, and the patterns he's got multiple patterns that he can update to once the AI models update. So I would highly suggest not doing a tattoo, because once the AI model has been updated to be able to detect your tattoo and find your face, then it's a lot harder to change.
Yeah, that's fair.
A lot more expensive and a lot more painful, I'd argue. So don't tattoo your face, kids. Don't tattoo your face.
Yeah, I'm trying not to.
But and that's what Bill was saying in the article too, is that I could see a situation where Bill tests a certain pattern on clothing that has a high rate of deceiving most of the models out there until such time they catch up, and then you're just left with a seemingly not so fashionable t-shirt that doesn't do much, right?
Well, I'd argue that the stuff that Bill is doing is reasonably fashionable. I mean, one of the things that he talked about or was discussed in the article here is you can break facial recognition and break facial detection by wearing a shirt with a bunch of faces on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross now.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, the stuff that he's looking at from the sort of the examples that he's got in the article, this stuff actually looks somewhat fashionable and might arguably be timeless.
Fashion
Larry, are you saying I shouldn't be wearing the shirt with 40 of your faces on it?
I mean, you can. It's totally fine.
Now I have to make one.
Only if I can wear the shirt with 40 of your faces on it.
I'll make one of those too.
So what we need is a programmable shirt that's covered in LED matrix. Bill can program, and it automatically updates to have the best chance of bypassing.
With all the cheap yellow displays that Larry has, that's actually possible.
You just cover your whole body in cheap yellow displays.
Yep.
Let's do it.
This is one of those cases where I have to wait for the technology to catch up to my crazy ideas. And at some point the technology will catch up. For many, many years, I wanted to cosplay as Rorschach.
Right, the heat-sensitive cloth that he kept over his face. Right.
I don't know. No, it wasn't necessarily heat-sensitive, but because he could manipulate that cloth to be whatever black and white image that he wanted. I just want my own e-ink display, flexible, high-resolution e-ink display that I can turn into a mask to become Rorschach. The technology isn't quite there yet. We have e-ink displays that can do that. We can do bendable LCD. We can do all, but now they all need to come together at some point.
Well, they were making rubber masks for Mission Impossible back in the 60s.
Right.
Why don't you just do that?
But make that rubber mask change its image at will, Jeff. Just like the TV, the screen, the content on your TV.
So how long until Bill is presenting a new clothing line at the New York Fashion Week? Because here's what I'm predicting. This gets adopted. People actually start to change their fashion trends based on privacy. Now, things are going to have to get worse to make that a really popular fashion choice. But if and when they start to do that, now people are going to be updating their fashion based on what fashion provides the most privacy in return.
Well, I think there's a lot of countries where it is worse than we have it here, right?
I mean,
that's an excellent point.
It's the global aspect. I think it's some of what drove Bill was there are surveillance states that go above and beyond the U.S.
Yeah. For example, we can definitely get there, and I suggest we should before we wrap up with this. But Sam's story number 9, very much to exactly that about surveillance states and being able to do pattern recognition, person recognition, and so forth for all of that type of stuff. But
yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of that. If this thing worked, cars and Teslas might drive through you because they don't recognize you as a person.
Yeah,
you might not really want to have this privacy clothing.
No, they're using LiDAR, not cameras for that.
No, they're using cameras now.
They're using cameras. Yep. Oh, they switched from LiDAR?
They removed it, even though it worked better. It took
them years to make the full switch.
Why?
And then it took them more years to get it to where it is today. So I've had a Tesla for just over 3 years now, and I've tested the full self-driving on and off in my first 3-year lease. And then it worked so well when I got my new one this spring that I'm paying for it now because it works really well.
Yeah,
as long as people don't wear this.
It's still, though,
as long as people don't wear that clothing.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, that when I tested it from the dealer, I pulled up to a red light, and there was a sign that said no right turn on red, and it took a right turn on red. And I'm like, oh, they still have a little work to do to be able to actually detect those signs to not commit a traffic violation.
Or the Rhode Island driver model was simply installed.
Yes, because they don't pay attention to that.
That's good.
That also means when you don't plug your seatbelt in, it doesn't make any of that bonging noises.
Yeah,
and it doesn't use any turn signals.
The Massachusetts model would have you tailgating nonstop, no matter the speed, and no matter how many other cars were around you.
The New York model would be talk to pedestrians. I'm walking here. I'm driving here. Get out of my way.
They would have to install.
And they did different modes. So in full self-driving now in Tesla, you can do chill, normal, hurry, and Mad Max. And
God.
I have a friend that takes we went to a soccer tournament, and he told me he did Mad Max the whole way from Rhode Island to Pennsylvania. And I was like, dude, you are brave. I could not stomach the car in Mad Max. I just don't trust it. I mean, I trust it more than I did before, but I don't trust it enough to put Mad Max mode on my Tesla.
Can you imagine Mad Max mode with ludicrous speed?
Yeah. That's essentially what it does. I mean, in my model, they call it insane mode for the speed
insane
mode.
Sorry,
I think it's the Model S. I think has the ludicrous speed, but the Model 3, not that far. I mean, it's their second fastest model, right? Is called insane mode. And that's the difference between a 2.90 to 60 and a 1.80 to 60, which that is ludicrous. That's insane.
So in Mad Max mode, do you have to stop at Bullet Town first, or
right? I know there could be a Mad Max reference in there. Do you have to dress the part? I don't know.
It only plays Tina Turner music the entire time.
I mean, you're not turning me off on any of this right now.
I know. This is not bad.
Yeah. I mean,
didn't say it was bad.
Yeah, this could be fun. Convince me I'm wrong. Right?
Well, anyway, this article here is about AI plus espionage. So now that there was a surveillance system, I think the Israelis used surveillance system to target attacks. And after that, Putin got really worried and turned off all the surveillance near where he is until he could get it totally off the internet. So they couldn't use the surveillance to find him, which is not a bad move. And the point is now they basically created, I don't know if you guys remember from 2010 or so, HB Gary Federal claimed that by correlating all these different data sources on the internet, like Twitter and Facebook and stuff, they could track down who was in Anonymous. And it didn't work at that time, but now it's working. Now by tying surveillance systems to other things like blogs and social networks and things, you can get all this information and tie it all together and then query it with an AI. So you can ask it a question like find if there's a occurrence here of two men passing a bag to each other, or a person who has changed their appearance. And so with queries like that, it becomes a much more powerful tool for investigation and surveillance. And that's what people are worried about.
What's going to be hilarious is when you see Putin wearing the clothing that Bill is designing. It's going to be awesome.
Or a tinfoil cap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody just tell them that it does the same thing as Bill's.
Yeah, that's just like people who assume you're guilty because you have Tor installed on your computer. Your security tool can be taken as evidence of misbehavior.
Now, when he does go to wherever they do all the runway shows in New York, when he's showing off his modeling line, I say we all get to be volunteers.
Yeah, he wants real hackers modeling the line. That's part of the whole PR campaign, right?
Yeah.
Bill will be printing a lot of clothes at extra large.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some.
Having done fashion show runway photography before, the parties are where it's at.
Nice. So, Dave, if you know people in the industry, we should probably try to get Bill hooked up with with something like that, because that'd
be awesome.
That's kind of a big deal. Like, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Now he just has to come to the show first. We're not going to help him out unless he shows up.
Right. Come to this show.
Yeah.
Right.
That's yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We just want to see you, Bill.
Thanks for jumping on that bandwagon, Dave. Appreciate it.
We love you, Bill.
Jeff, you had articles in a theme of ushering in the next frontier, quantum innovation, and largely centered around the federal government and guidance, executive orders that are dealing with the quantum computing strategy. I would surmise, and some of it hints towards, that post-quantum cryptography, how do we get there kind of thing. Which I just want to throw this out there. When I looked at the FortiBleed attack, I was like, post-quantum safe is great. However, a lot of people are still running really old software and firmware that's implementing cryptographic algorithms or hashing algorithms or cryptography in general that is known to be susceptible to some kind of attack, right? The attack varies. We also have key abuses where the private key gets leaked. That happens still. Yet, a lot of our concerns, especially from the U.S. federal government, are with post-quantum cryptography. And this concerns me greatly that we're not addressing the right problems.
Well, Sam also had reference to at least one of the two executive orders. They were issued very close together. I mentioned earlier I was at CyberJutsuCon last weekend, and I sat in on a quantum talk, and this is not against the person that was speaking at all, but they were sort of sharing what I'm interpreting as sort of the party line. I think I've decided to coin a new term, QFUD. Just the gloom of doom of what's coming with quantum, and we got to start acting now, largely hinged around the idea that the bad guys, the nation states, can be harvesting all sorts of encrypted data right now and just wait the 2, 3, 5 years, whatever. And then once the quantum is there, they'll be able to decrypt it. So the time is now. What I object to is they don't seem to articulate what the actual threat is, how and where asymmetric key is vital and used in today's modern society and internet. Because in my 20 years of working with PCI, where we're protecting a certain type of data, but when that data is stored, it's stored with a symmetric key. Thank you.
Wait.
We'll go ahead and jump in, Sam.
Yeah, but it's transmitted over TLS. Right. And in TLS, you transmit the symmetric key using asymmetric encryption. So if you can break it, you can just steal the symmetric key.
Yes, I agree with that. But that's not the same. That's a lot more complicated intercept of data than...
Well, you store the network packets, and then you'll be able to decrypt the session later.
As I said, that's a lot of traffic to to store, and then to be able to go through and weed out what it is that's sensitive that you want to know. I mean, because literally all of our HTTP, I disagree.
Okay, but here's the problem. You're saying it's a lot of traffic because it could be terabytes of traffic, right? Am I correct, Jeff?
More than terabytes. I mean,
could be petabytes of
probably
traffic.
A terabyte every minute of TLS or SSL.
Let's call it a petabyte a day. Deal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. That's a lot of traffic, right, Jeff? Are we? Am I using your term properly?
Yes.
Okay. Cheap. Dirt freaking cheap. Because for $5,000 or $10,000, I can store that petabyte. At the minute I can, and nation state costings, that is nothing.
Hold on. I thought it was $5,000 or $10,000 just for a terabyte NVMe today. Is that?
No. Spinning Rust. You don't need to do anything besides spinning Rust because I just store it and then turn
it's
it
more
off.
expensive now, but comparatively speaking, yes.
At nation state budgetary sides, this is nothing.
You could also filter it for the IP addresses of high interest, like the enemy military, so you're not having to archive all the traffic, but just the stuff that's likely to contain the stuff you want.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need all the traffic either. I would assume you would apply some filtering.
You don't need XCMP pings. You don't need DNS requests.
Yeah, and you don't
need.
I mean, I guess you could dedupe it, right, based on source and destination. Whatever has to be transmitted in clear text, you could then kind of dedupe it, like, oh, we've got, a terabyte of data between that server and that server or whatever on this port that probably collected enough that we can move on to some other pairing or whatever, right? There's multiple ways to normalize and dedupe this data so that you can store it until such time that you can build a quantum computer to be able to break the encryption and see the data. And then the question is, like, is that still relevant?
That was where I was going to go. Like,
right?
If we have to wait 5 years to build that quantum computer to decrypt it, how relevant is that data? I mean, some of it may absolutely be relevant, but I venture to guess that much of it will not.
I wrote a paper on this shit.
Yeah, consider Bitcoin.
Congratulations, Jeff. I'm not disagreeing with any of you guys. I'm just saying.
So there's something called data.
It's a nation state. B, it's everything that you're citing is possible issues. Finding the right kind of data, the value of the data. Is the data still worth it? I don't hear anybody in the public forum articulating all this. All I hear them say is they're harvesting your encrypted data now and they can decrypt it later, which is very, very simplistic.
That is the articulation of it. What are you talking about?
I think that's very highly simplistic and misleading based on how most people in the private sector are storing their sensitive data, if they even have sensitive data.
Wait. They're not. This is not about storage of data. This is about transmission of data. They're harvesting it across the open internet. That is where they're harvesting it from, and they're harvesting
I don't hear that. I did not hear that articulated in the talk I heard this weekend.
Then they're wrong.
On that one person.
Then they're wrong.
And
the harvesting happens
in Bitcoin.
Across.
Yeah.
Good, sorry.
I just want to say, in Bitcoin, you actually store it with public key encryption.
Yeah. So here's the deal.
Right.
I am going to send.
Sam's right. Bitcoin is potentially one of the things that could come back to bite people.
I send data to a data sharing partner. I send it across a TLS encrypted connection, right, Jeff? Okay. Yep. So that TLS encrypted connection means that I am using an asymmetric encryption algorithm to generate a static encryption key. It actually derives from the asymmetric encryption. That static
does it derive it or does it transmit it?
Derived. Weirdly enough, I thought it was transmit. I was corrected rather harshly by a few people, and I was smacked enough times to know that it derives now. I went through the math.
Taking the smacks, I will.
It made my fucking eyes bleed going through the math, but let's just go with it. So now you've got a symmetric connection, symmetric encrypted connection to send the data back and forth with your data sharing partner. However, if you can intercept that asymmetric initial connection, you can derive that exact same symmetric key and decrypt all of the data. That TLS tunnel at that moment is worthless, and all of the data can be decrypted. So what they're doing, and by the way, you don't even have to have a sensor on the internet to intercept this traffic. There are significant numbers of ISPs and other vendors who will sell you terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of encrypted traffic for pennies because people use it for testing. Okay. So I can buy encrypted traffic by the effective bucket load the metric shit ton, and then just store it and sock it away. Now, obviously, I'd want to filter it a little bit like we talked about earlier, but then I have all of this data that's been transmitted across the open internet. Nobody knows that I've got it except maybe the people I bought it from. Okay. 5 years from now, I decrypt it and I find out it's their lunch menus. Fuck. Right. That's a problem. But the big thing is that there is such a thing as a data half-life. Much like radioactive elements, data has. Yeah, I'm serious. I wrote this. Okay, along with Mark Carney, who's the head of the Quantum
I do have a
Village at
certain
DEF CON.
certification. So, but for the edification of the public, keep going.
Okay, so the data half-life is that it's for each library of data, not classification, but library of data. Okay, so restricted PII, restricted PHI, restricted stock trades, whatever. Each of those has a different time after which it decays down to I don't give a crap anymore. All right.
Yeah.
Stock trades. 5 minutes after you make the trade, it's public. I don't care. It's not secret. But PII, PHI, there's a window. Sometime between now and 100 years after your death, it matters. 1,000 years after your death, 5 million years, doesn't matter.
Right. I think of it in terms of 0-day vulnerabilities and exploits. Have some until the patches, it should be private until the patch is released, and then it's not a 0-day anymore, right?
Well, so going back to your storage capacity and
thank you,
volume
Dave.
of storage,
You're so kind.
Is that based on an entire enterprise, a single person? When you say it's going to be a petabyte of data, that's per what?
I'm sorry, say it again.
What data are you storing that's a petabyte's worth of data? Is it
all of the network traffic that comes out of a particular government agency? How much data transits the lines that the NSA has going out into the open internet every day?
So it's by agency or
by location.
Can we say
by entity? Yeah, by entity is fine.
Entity? Okay.
Yeah.
Also, you can compress that data as well and store
a lot
more of it. Because that data is highly compressible. If you intercept a SSL stream, you can most certainly compress that.
Well,
I highly recommend the middle-out compression. By the way,
will quantum computing? I understand it breaks it. Will quantum computing help you with sorting through all these petabytes of data?
That's a great question. That was a question in the back of my mind, Jeff. Is we talk about using AI models and super fast GPUs, but as quantum computing advances, can we use quantum computing not just with the decryption aspect, but the sorting of that data? Josh, I think you've done a lot of research into this. I heard you say
I've done
yes
a crap ton of research into this.
Is that true? Does quantum help us sift through the data?
Well, here's the thing. So, Dave, you can. I saw you going. So, if you want to, go ahead.
In very much layman's terms, yeah, you should be able to effectively sift through it all at once. It should be extremely fast to sift through.
Using quantum computing specifically, though, or traditional computing?
Using quantum, as I understand it. So, and then taking into account the fact that you're going to be able to crack really difficult encryption with it as well. It should make that whole process a lot simpler.
No, I don't think so, because there's a special algorithm to crack public keys, and I have not heard of an algorithm that improves sorting.
Yeah.
Or searching. You'd have to have a quantum algorithm for it. Now, there might be one, but I don't think it has been discovered yet. And I think the real answer is we don't know, because there's only a few quantum algorithms so far. And after the hardware becomes more common, people will develop new algorithms.
I see the AI LLM models as being used to sift and sort through the data, because that's one of the things that they're really good at.
So I remember reading about this somewhere, and I didn't have a name for it. Grover's algorithm seems to be that solution to searching through it.
Yeah.
For unstructured data.
No, I think. Oh, okay. I thought it would only be used to crack AES. I wasn't aware of it being able to search through data, but maybe it can.
I don't know. This is such a dynamic conversation. I kid you not. When I was coming back from tour camp, I got a ride in an Uber, and the Uber driver asked me about it. He goes, "Oh, you're at a cybersecurity conference. Hey, tell me about this quantum thing." And I'm like, there's a lot we don't know, and I kind of wish he was here right now. His name was Mike.
So,
Nice.
okay, so quantum. Oh, Jesus. Do we need to do Schrodinger's cat? The basic.
I see you're right. Grover's algorithm is supposed to speed up search. That's
Yes.
interesting information.
And interestingly
interesting.
enough, it's also supposed to feed up the addition of data into AI models. So it's going to be able to feed AI models faster, and it's going to be able to do search faster. Dave's 100% correct.
I should have remembered.
Let me finish my thought. This is a great conversation. Let me just finish my thought. The executive order that was just published, and there's
AI?
one that basically says we need to use more quantum and get ahead of the game and make
Yes,
make our nation great. The second one is we need to protect ourselves and get up to speed on quantum. And it says ongoing cyber activity against our nation also presents the risk of adversaries collecting United States information now and decrypting it later once large-scale quantum computers are operational. Now, the
harvest now, decrypt later.
Harvest now, decrypt later.
Right, same thing.
Nowhere in that statement, and I know that they're talking about transmission of traffic, or that's what they intend to mean, but it doesn't say that.
Yeah, but
there's not a lot of detail in terms of. I think it
Jeff,
should.
I think it should. I'm not sure that it's the driving motivator behind what threat actors are doing today, but there's lots of indicators that Volt Typhoon, right, is going after internet service providers.
Sure.
There's evidence in the For2Bleed campaign. They basically turned Fortinet firewalls into passive sniffing devices living off the land to collect traffic. There's campaigns against IoT devices. They can conceivably, now they're using those for proxy access today, but they're very easy to turn every vulnerable IoT router in the US into a passive listening device that's collecting traffic and funneling it back. And so I'm not sure if that's just they're using that to support their campaigns today, or if there are some threat actors that are like, hey, we're going to collect a whole bunch of traffic, we're going to store it and then be able to crack it later. Kind of situation.
And I think all of what we're talking about is extremely important and extremely possible and feasible. And I don't think throwing out a term, harvest now, decrypt later, captures all of the nuance that we're talking about. Period. That's my point.
They're valid. Valid, dude.
Where do I want to go from here? I want to mention TP-Link because Larry gets very squirrely when we mention TP-Link, and we talk about IoT routers briefly. But
there he goes now. I see him going.
It's an interesting attack vector. So it was a vulnerability in a TP-Link router. Again, a lot of embedded devices, edge devices, IoT devices have vulnerabilities. This one was interesting to me because it has to do with the DHCP option, but much like the libSSH one, it's kind of like in reverse. So it says an attacker on the same broadcast domain as the target's WAN device can achieve unauthenticated code execution by answering the device's DHCP requests with a malicious option 66 value. I say option 66 was something to do with TFTP. No authentication, no user interaction or control of an existing DHCP server is required. So you get a new DHCP server. You basically have to put up a server and respond to requests, and you can respond to requests with maliciousness in that response that will compromise the client. It was the same thing for the libSSH vulnerability, which I want to say was in one of the Exploitarium disclosures, in that you have to set up a malicious SSH server, someone connects to it, and you can compromise their client. So there was two. This doesn't often happen, every week on the show, right, that we've been doing for 20 plus years, is that you need a malicious server to compromise clients. I think that's kind of interesting in kind of flipping the attack backwards. So one was in TP-Link and one was in libSSH. Also, we rely on SSH so much. I mean, it was one of my first projects ever in cybersecurity 20 years, more than 20 years. God, I'm old. More than 20 years ago now, converting not from, I did some conversions from Telnet to SSH, but then converting from SSH version 1 to SSH version 2 because there were security concerns. And we rely so heavily on, much like we had the conversation about TLS and SSL, relying on those protocols for security and privacy. We rely on SSH for a lot of those. So when there's a vulnerability in SSH, it's a big deal. Similarly, in DHCP, it's one of those underpinnings of networks that we rely on. And when there's vulnerabilities in it, it could be a bad day, especially when it's in that reverse, that I need to have a malicious server to compromise malicious clients. But it also, in the sense of TP-Link, kind of limits your exposure as well. Because when we talk about SSH is different, with DHCP, you have to be in the same network segment or VLAN or LAN, right, in order to conduct this attack. So it limits that exposure. But I think it's like academically kind of interesting, right?
For sure. I mean, it's a great bug hunt. It's a great finding, but like actual execution is pretty difficult, especially because it's great.
Yeah.
It's WAN side, and those are like some of the ones you look for, because that's really crazy, regardless of manufacturer. But yeah, Paul, the limiting thing here is you have to be in the same sort of like broadcast domain to see the DHCP request or be able to send a spoofed DHCP release to then send your own with that particular option 66 response.
But one thing worth mentioning is if you use cloud servers, you're often on the same broadcast domain as many other people's servers.
Great point.
Yes, your other servers, but not your TP-Link or not your home consumer router.
Right.
So that's but DHCP in general, that might be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but
like
in this case, if I wanted to attack Paul's router in this case, I'd probably have to go, maybe buy a house just down the street from him, so I'm on the same quote broadcast domain as his Verizon FiOS or his Cox communication stuff. So,
and then hope you win the race condition too in DHCP.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the great part is that DHCP races
that's why
often.
we race.
we race often. And in fact, you can restart the race by sending those DHCP release. So,
well, similar to Wi-Fi in DAuths, right? Win the race.
Mm-hmm. A bunch of other stuff. Yeah. So,
I also came across I don't know.
I wipe it
people love the term IoT. I like to think of them as embedded systems or enterprise IoT. This system was definitely an enterprise IoT device, and I was just kind of curious, coming sort of off the heels of my IP KVM research, where we did a lot of research into consumer IP-based KVMs. I was like, it's kind of interesting. Like, I got a lot of questions about like, well, what do enterprises do? Enterprises use different gear for IP KVM, but also for terminal services, which is interesting. I remember having some of these similar devices 20 plus years ago when I worked at the university, in that it had an IP Ethernet interface, right, on one side, and then it had serial, it's a terminal server, serial on the other side, and it was for like servers that don't have a BMC and you want to have some kind of out of band access to it. And especially with your networking devices, you want to have a serial console that's accessible over the network as kind of a backup. It's interesting in
which story is this of yours?
I didn't have a story on this.
Okay.
I just discovered this today, right before the show. I forget the name of the vendor, but there's
Lantronics.
I forget the names, but like this vendor
it's
Lantronics. Lantronics is definitely one.
It's the Force Scout report with Lantronics.
Vertiv?
I've read it.
Vertiv is the current one, but you can trace it back to like 3 different acquisitions. And some of their terminal servers run PowerPC with a Linux kernel.
Oh,
like,
God.
Wow. PowerPC, that's a name I haven't heard
PowerPC?
in a long time. Yeah, it's like
Jesus,
the
I haven't
Star
done that
Wars meme.
since
Right, I haven't heard that name in a long
G5
time.
Mac.
Is Motorola even still
I was my
making
first
them?
Mac, by the way. I used to be a Mac user. That was I can't stand Windows, so I went to Mac, and I had a PowerPC based Mac. It was a huge pain in the butt because the processor architecture was different, so it was hard to do certain things. And that's why I was excited when we got Intel based Macs. We could do more stuff, and then they switched back to they switched to ARM, which is where a lot of, I think, PowerPC and MIPS based devices have gone, is they go to ARM. It just kind of becomes the winner in these kind of IoT based systems. So I just thought it was interesting. It was PowerPC.
A quick sidebar, since you mentioned archaic terminology, had this come up with a client last week. When was the last time you've heard a network architecture described as hub and spoke?
Network Essentials for my Cisco CCNA class in 2010.
2010. We have 2010. Anything more recent than that?
Yeah,
Twice.
Much more recent for me, probably 6 years ago, maybe 5.
What did hub and spoke?
Oh, wait. Remember Star?
It's like client
Star
server,
mesh.
only it's hardware related, whereas client server is the software layer,
I mean,
application.
arguably, we still kind of refer to that design for Wi-Fi. And potentially also Bluetooth Classic as well for the Bluetooth PicoNet, because you can, with the Bluetooth PicoNet, it's one coordinator and a bunch of devices, and the maximum number of devices you can have is 7. That's the largest space for the addressing. But then you can have one of the clients become the coordinator for another network, for a scatternet. So it's, one central with a bunch of spokes, with potentially another central with a bunch of spokes. So, I mean, in traditional networking design, Jeff, I haven't heard that since probably when I took my Cisco CCNA, and that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, for me, it was a joking reference when the person mentioned this, but I do remember them mentioning it.
So remember when LAN meant one floor of the building? And so one floor was the LAN, and then you had the spoke, the hub, the floors switch, which would then go up to the next floor and the next floor and the next floor, and would eventually end in some rack under a sewer.
If
somewhere.
you had more than one building, you had the WLAN.
That's right. I forgot about that. Oh my God. Oh God, I'm old. Okay.
Right. Sam, I thought you would like my story number 3. The Phantom squatting AI hallucinated domains as a software supply chain vector. So what Palo Alto's Unit 42 identified, where attackers register domains that LLMs commonly hallucinate for well-known brands.
I read about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I read about this a while ago. It's really obvious. AIs do just guess, and they often give you code that's wrong. Yeah,
they don't have to do that, but they do.
Well, they do have to do that because they don't understand anything. They're just, you ask them for instructions. It's making a page of a manual that looks pretty much like a page of a manual it found on the web.
Yes.
And it guesses at the name of the packages, the kind of thing you might try.
It does this with CVEs. And I know this because I wrote an app that looks at vulnerability data. And some of my engineers, my coworkers, cautioned me that it would do this. And I've seen it when I just prompt, so not in my app, but in like just regular course of business, I will just query like some frontier model. It includes CVEs. And like I notice in some of the results and in some of the sources, I'm like, that CVE said 2026 some number, but you had a reference to 2025, that same number, and thought it was like trying to say that's the same CVE because you wanted to give me. Because oftentimes if I'm querying an LM for a CVE, I'm like, tell me all about the CVE. It was just published. I want articles that wrote about it and have some analysis because there is none that I could find. So I tell the LLM, go find it. And it'll go, well, this CVE was close to that, so therefore I'll give you this analysis. I'm like, no. Like what happened in computers, like a 0 is a 0 and a 1 is a 1. Like we're very discreet when we talk about computers.
Unless you're talking quantum.
Unless you're talking quantum, or unless you're talking about LLMs.
Quantum entanglement.
LLMs will just hallucinate.
Or trinary, for that matter.
Well, I think the best way to explain it, which I wish I could get through to middle managers, is LLMs are just like you have minions. They run around busily without really understanding what they're saying.
Right.
It's like a Roomba.
Is there an emerging concept in AIs of neurodivergent and neurotypical?
They're all neurodivergent. They're all like got ADHD. They don't actually listen to the instructions in detail, and they just give you something that looks kind of close, like a student that prepared it.
Sounds like
while
college
drunk the night
students to me,
before.
Sam.
Yeah, that's right. It's minions. It's the classic unintelligent but energetic henchman.
That's why, much like interns, you have to give LLMs very stringent requirements. The more and the
you have
better
to check
instructions
everything
and
they do.
requirements. And you have to check the
Yep.
output. Yep.
Yep.
I actually read something about that today. I can't find the article. It was referencing superpowers skills, but somebody was writing about effectively neurodivergent, a skill to make an AI neurodivergent in relation to the superpower skills. I can't find it, but it was I got distracted by the superpowers because I'm a superhero fan, so I kind of went down that section.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even if you give it, and so I've been working for probably over a year and a half or more, training LLMs to write like me. And look, I know I'm not going to get 100%. Like what I write is always going to be different from what an LLM spits out. But my goal is to work diligently and engineer a solution that gets it closer and closer to the way that I write. I know it's not ever going to be perfect, and that's fine. I'm okay with that, but keep saving me as much time as possible. And it's interesting if I tell it, like, don't write like an AI. Like, I want you to write like me, and I give it explicit instructions, and I give it a ton of source material. I'm like, here's a whole bunch of material that was written by Paul without the help of AI, and you should use that as part of your context. It will still make decisions on its own, to speak to like Unit 42's research, right? It's totally the way these things work. And all of a sudden, like I switched models, and it started writing posts in very short sentences. And that was because I don't know how it interpreted my source material, but I told it to take out M dashes and write in a certain way. And it kind of just like interpreted that as, oh, I just need to write in really short sentences. I'm like, but that's not the way I write. And it like dawned on me. I'm like, it's not understanding. It has no understanding. It's just taking instructions. It's not understanding what I want. It's just interpreting the instructions and making shit up as it goes along. I'm like, I'll stop making shit up. So then I tell it not to write in short sentences. So then it writes in like really long sentences that I have to break up. So I end up going through I end up going through the post. I'm like, fuck, that's a really long like run on sentence. Like every other sentence is really long and run on. I'm like, now I gotta train it. I gotta tune it somewhere in between. I would rather have longer sentences, I think, that I can peel back than shorter. For me, it was easier to peel back the longer sentences, and easier for me not to have the M dashes and some of the like standard terminology. It did scrub all that stuff out, but it's still, again, it's like kind of training an intern in that sense. And I got pretty far. I actually created a Claude skill finally based on my writing style, and it's undergoing a lot more testing. Again, it's not perfect, but it is much better from where I was a year and a half ago. So I still believe it's a useful tool. I know Jeff will never use AI because he will die on that hill, which is fine.
He will be using AI in the next year.
No,
whether he knows it or
AI
not,
by
perhaps.
proxy. It's by proxy, right, Jeff?
No, he'll be using AI directly in the next year. I'll guarantee you that. I'll make you a bet. Jeff, you want to bet?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sure you're using it right now without knowing it. It's giving you product recommendations and fixing your spelling and stuff like that.
I know I'm being inundated by it, but I'm never going to intentionally sit down and start talking to it, writing to an agent.
Yeah, but everything you use will have AI in it very soon.
Oh, and I rip out as much as I can, and it's a lost cause.
Another thing, Paul, I've noticed is that AIs forget important things about the task. Like 5 or 10 prompts down, they're making the same stupid mistake again because they forgot which version of PHP I'm using.
I have noticed that the newer models are better about memories than they were before.
Yeah.
They still lose memories. Also, I've gotten better at asking it to save its memories. Like after I do something and I get the results I want, I'm like, ooh, like save that to a memory. Like don't forget how we got here and the work we did to get here. So I think it's a combination of the models getting better and me as the user getting better at telling it to save its memories. But even having said that, occasionally it'll be like, oh, I have to relearn that. I'm like, we went through this before. You just didn't save the memory. Damn it. That's what Daniel Miessler's PAI is amazing, because he's definitely put context in there to have it save memories much better.
Check out Dave Zenzian's Data Watch. I've actually transitioned a lot of mine to Data Watch.
What's Data Watch?
Oh. You know Dave Zenzian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he built out, because I told him about PAI, and he went a little bit nuts, and he built out Data Watch, which is improved communication. You can hook it into Signal or Matrix or whatever, and then have it have a better memory module. PAI is limited to about 200 lines of memory in the memory file. Data Watch isn't. There's a lot of improvements there. My AIs are the test bed for the Data Watch stuff.
Nice. I had a lot of stories about Linux local privilege escalation. I feel like privilege escalation in general on all major operating systems might be like not a lost cause, but something that is super hard to defend today. I'm just throwing it out to you, like, philosophically covering all this on the show and analyzing the various TTPs, methods, techniques, and all that are used for privilege escalation on all operating systems. It is super hard to defend, especially now with AI analyzing the code. Yeah, having those controls on your operating system, like baked into your operating system, it is almost a lost cause. That we need other kind of monitoring and defensive techniques to both detect and prevent bad things from happening, because there's just so many new privilege escalation. I mean, there's still one in Docker on Linux that has been there for 10 plus years, and it's still, I saw an article, I forget which story I added, but it still works today. Someone was writing about it. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's been, if your user is in the Docker group, you can totally spin up containers to give you root. Like, that's always been a thing. And we just need to get better at defending it. And I think that goes above and beyond the operating system controls and what it provides. And this is true on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, doesn't matter. That boundary is very weak. I think it always has been. And now it's really under the microscope that
Arch.
Doesn't matter your Linux distro, man. That stuff works. 100%. Doesn't matter your operating system. You know, look at Windows, Mac. I don't know. Mac OS, I don't track as many. Maybe I'm just not tracking it as closely. But I'm sure there's privilege escalation there as well. Maybe they do it better than anyone. I don't know. I haven't really done a deeper study on Mac OS and privilege escalation.
Speaking of Windows, how much does the extended Windows 10 support cost?
It's like that article talks about, like, you can use 1,000 Microsoft credits. What is that? There's some kind of credit, or you can pay them like $59 or something.
Like Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah. It was like some. What was it in my article now? Where is that article? But you have to pay them money, because my story number 14, Windows 10 support quietly extended until October 2027 as users reject Windows 11. I was like, oh, Microsoft is being nice and extending support. But when you start reading the article, it definitely speaks to, like, people have to pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
So, because it's the consumer
it's expensive
ESU.
too.
Extended
security support, or extended support universe, or something like that.
Extended security updates. Thank you, Larry.
Yes.
Was a 1-year extension for Windows 10. Home users on Windows 10 22H2 could receive critical and important security updates through October 13th, 2026, with no renewal. Businesses on volume licensing have the option to pay for up to 3 years of extended updates at escalating prices starting at $61 per device. Unclear whether that's $61 per year or for 3 years. and what the escalating part is if you have to pay more or less, whether the escalation is less or more.
You can get it for free if you turn on a backup that synchronizes your settings into the Microsoft cloud.
I did read that. Also,
sell your soul for rock and roll.
You can redeem 1,000 Microsoft reward points.
Yep. Or a
Like
one-time purchase of $29.99.
Or a one-time fee of $30 is what they said in the article, or $29, whatever it is.
I was working with a retailer back in the late aughts, and they were trying to update. They needed to update from Windows 2000 to XP. That's how long ago it was. And it was going to take them years because, all of their point of sale systems, their cash registers, were running Windows 2000. The first year support was $500,000 for an enterprise license. The second year was $1 million.
Oh my God, are you joking?
The third year was $2 million, and they had to pay it for the 3 years.
No freaking way. Are you serious?
Wow.
$3.5 million. Jeez. But
and that was cheaper than upgrading.
Well, they were working on the upgrading, but
they just couldn't do it fast.
I think a nationwide retailer, that might have been in the news around that time, hint, 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 that owned 4 or 5 different retail storefronts that are always next to each other in the local shopping center, times how many hundreds, if not thousands, across the country. And each store had maybe 20 devices.
They do the math. How many engineers can you add at what cost? And will that cost more than just paying Microsoft to extend support?
Right.
Yep.
They had to do it out of necessity. They were working as quick
but
as
even
they
if you
could
add,
update.
it takes time in money to onboard an employee, get that person up to speed in the environment, and then you're paying someone with those skills hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, conceivably, right? And how many do you need to add? Like, the math doesn't work out. You might as well just pay Microsoft. Could have been what they came down to. I don't fault them for that, Jeff, to be honest with you. Like, they're trying to do the right thing, but the math just doesn't work out.
Yeah, right. The math's not mathing.
Yeah, it's a business at the end of the day too. So
now, when we were at Tenable, I was having similar discussions with former clients. Because what were we rolling to back then? Was it XP to 7 or 7 to 10? One of those two. And the issue was, the issue I had with Nessus was if it found an unsupported operating system, it would stop scanning and say, you have a critical finding, this is an unsupported operating system. So you didn't know if it had any vulnerabilities related to anything because it stopped. And the extended support you might have, but I don't know that Nessus ever had a check to see, you've got extended support, so we'll keep looking for vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that's looking for vulnerabilities versus threats are two different things. But then you get I do this in my job today as part of my job today. We're like, how much do you want to focus on legacy stuff versus supported stuff? Yep. How much do you want to build in?
When the legacy
I can
stuff,
find your vulnerabilities and threats.
We talk about all the time organizations that are on the legacy stuff because it's running the vital business operations and they're afraid to get off of it. Or they can't get off of it. So it for the right organization, it's extremely critical.
It's a slippery slope. Where do you put your engineering efforts? On the defense side and on the cybersecurity product side, with respects to end of life or unsupported software or hardware.
Well, now there's a requirement in PCI that expects you to have a program that is, I forget the periodicity. It might be annually, it might be more often, but you're supposed to have an inventory of everything in your environment, and you're also supposed to be keeping track of what's the forecasted end of life, end of service for everything that's in your card holder data.
And that's hard. That's hard.
It really is, but it's better than this, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I agree. I think it's difficult determining what you have.
Well, then it's required for PCI.
So right. And then, then you have to take what you have and cross-reference that with I don't want to say unstructured data, but like data that's not presented to you in a structured manner. In other words, there's no like API.
That sounded like a Webster's definition of unstructured.
But like there's no clean API that I can query to go, I've got XYZ device, it's this hardware model, it's this firmware software version. Tell me if this is end of life, end of sale, end of support, and all the, because it's not just one query, right? It's not just is this supported or not. It's when is the end of sale, when is the end of support, when is the end of security updates, and every vendor has different terminology to define like what's ending and what in what time. And then in the Microsoft case, as an example, there's the, is there an opportunity for me to enroll in a program when I can continue to get support for it? And back to our previous discussion, like budget wise, economically, do I pay to get updates for this device to give me more time to update it? There's no like great system for us to use in order to determine that. I mean, on one hand, you could have some kind of, and so I turn to LLMs when I have this question about a specific product. Programmatically, could you write some software that integrates an LLM to tell you about that? It goes back to Sam and I's discussion about how LLMs like to hallucinate, so you'd have to deal with that problem, especially when you're integrating that into like an LLM API. So like, go tell me what the support is, for this given product. You have to validate those results as well. It's a really hard problem to solve, to enable organizations to know what they have and know when you're not going to get security updates any longer. But it's probably one of the most important. We talk about fundamentals, right? Like this, you're
jumping to some sort of automated query to find out what's in your network, which I understand pragmatically is necessary, but I think there are other ways to determine what's in your network. Like if you had processes in place where you have purchase authority and requisition and invoices and
wait. Who talks to purchasing? Technology never talks to purchasing. Just because you should be checking.
But to Jeff's point, it's a great record of what you have. Agreed,
yeah, I always say, can you check please the reimbursements on corporate cards so I can figure out who's using what SaaS platform and why do we have 7 copies of Constant Contact and 3, Slack subscriptions and 7 different SIMs. Yeah, exactly. Trust me, I get it.
Well, and I'm not saying that clients that are subject to organizations that are subject to PCI aren't as notorious, but they've at least locked that shit down for the card data environment because they had to. And I've always been a proponent of, it's a requirement that makes sense. You should be doing this everywhere, not just for this, this area of your enterprise that you've isolated. And I still stand by that.
And sometimes the SaaS offering puts you in a better security position. When we talk about inventorying what you have, I talked about SD-WAN, I think, last week, and how it was just prolific, the number of Kev entries in any one given product in a pretty short time frame. I think we had 7, I think now 8 Cisco SD-WAN in that family of products. I actually dug into it this week because I get the question a lot, like, what's happening with SD-WAN? How do we help people figure out what they have? And I'm curious if anyone has feedback, please contact me, because I don't trust what comes back from unlike you, Jeff. I use AI, but I have a filter on it. Like I don't inherently trust the results from it. And I started digging in. I'm like, most of the vulnerabilities with Cisco SD-WAN, as an example, is a very broad set of products. Some of those live on actual devices. Some of those are management products. What I learned is that most of the vulnerabilities, the CVSS 10 on the SysAkev vulnerabilities, are with the management suite. And I dug in, and again, I was prompting AI because I was like, this is my new search engine kind of thing. Like, help me do the research. I'm like, when we talk about vSmart, vManage, and vBond, I think are the 3 products. I'm like, how are they deployed? Often how I use AI to figure out, is this software that I install as a user, and like I maintain the operating system, but I'm just installing the software, because that's one scenario. Or is this a physical or virtual appliance from the network edge vendor like Cisco, that Cisco maintains the operating system and the software, and they're giving it to me as one physical or virtual appliance. And so it might be Linux under the covers, but like I don't manage the Linux. Cisco manages the Linux, or the appliance as we call it, right? Or is it like firmware based physical appliance? Like those are things where I have to rely on the vendor to harden it and give me updates because they don't want me having access to it. I'm like, or the third scenario is it a SaaS offering, or is it a combination of the three? Right? A lot of times the answer is a combination of the three. So go back to SD-WAN, I think it's vBond, vSmart, and vManage. The V is virtual.
Virtual.
You
Right.
can deploy those as VM appliances from Cisco, or you can use Cisco's I forget what it's called, but you can use Cisco's cloud management platform, and they deploy it as basically a SaaS offering. I think they can deploy it in your AWS, but like they manage everything. And what AI told me was usually enterprises are deploying it as a SaaS offering. And that's just to manage your SD-WAN stuff. There's the SD-WAN stuff that ends up on your devices, Cisco Catalyst SD-WAN. I think it's like deployed as a container on like a feature on your Catalyst switches and routers kind of thing. So it gets very, very confusing. So what do I have? But also, how did I deploy it? Because that changes how you secure it, manage it, monitor it, and maintain it. So how much of it are you outsourcing to your vendor? In the case of SaaS, a lot of times you're better off letting the vendor manage it because they fix it. Critical vulnerability comes out. Guess what? It's on them to fix it. They fix it once. Conceivably, they know about the vulnerability before it's public and can patch it quietly. And so by the time it comes to an announcement, the best scenario is if you're hosting it with Cisco, it's already fixed. That was one of my realizations. If I got any of that wrong, or you have insights and you're listening to the show, I'd love to talk to you because I don't work for an enterprise where we deploy something like SD-WAN, and I'm just kind of, again, I used AI to find.
No. You can actually, but you don't. I mean, let's be honest, Paul. You can actually analogize it just to life, and by that I mean when you were 20, if something happened in your house, you're like, I'll fix it. You know, by the time you're 50, you're like, fuck it, I'm hiring somebody. I'm not dealing with that crap.
100%.
Yep.
I'm already there.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Dude.
No, I just hit 40. I just hire people now.
Yeah, just it's not worth the fucking time. And I feel bad. Like I could learn a new skill. I can have fun with this. I know, but take lots of ibuprofen.
You also have a job and kids and stuff like that. So you're like, oh,
details. Yeah, I just bought a new smoker. So while we were on the show, actually,
there's
what you guys said.
How's that garden fence, Josh? I mean, you haven't paid somebody to do that yet.
No, I haven't actually. I'm doing the garden fence myself. I have the stakes out. I put the string up. I've got to go measure them.
What about your office you're building in the garage? Is that outsourced or is that
no? That's outsourced.
Is that a SaaS model or is that
that's fuck that? That's hire a handyman. I designed it, but I'm hiring. I hired a handyman to come do it. It's just it's been so freaking hot that he's like, look, I can't work in a closed garage for an entire day. I'm gonna die. I'm like, I get it. It's cool. So
yeah,
and you know, and if you hire a random guy standing in front of Home Depot, that's like getting an AI to help you.
Right.
That's a fascinating analogy. I really like that to a certain extent. Oh God, that's really funny.
That's a conference talk title right there.
Which homeless man are you hiring to fix your PowerPoint deck?
Sam, I liked a couple of your stories, including embedding quickly forbidden text and spyware. I think that's great.
I'm not sure it's actually practical, but somebody did try it. They tried including text about nuclear and biological weapons in the spyware, assuming that when they try to run it through an AI to analyze it, the AI will refuse, saying, no, this stuff is not safe. And there was a similar attack where you put like error messages in your spyware So it says, ran out of memory, context exceeded, so that when the AI looks at the output, it'll say, my AI process failed. Because it's all the fundamental problem. AIs do not understand the origin of information. So they'll look at something and think the AI put it there, or they'll think the system administrator put it there, because things are not properly labeled as to where they came from.
Mm-hmm. I also liked your story number 10, in that it grinds my gears. It's like a soapbox of mine that, we go back to September 11th when people tell me we would have had privacy legislation, and instead we got the Patriot Act.
Well,
right?
but I mean, I know most people seem to take the extreme privacy viewpoint that we shouldn't be spying on anybody anywhere. But I have a lot of sympathy for people that say, kids are getting in a lot of trouble online and we should do something. But the current legislation is just a mess. And what it does is put all these complicated rules that contradict each other. So what companies are probably going to have to do practically is just age-gate everything. That's why they're upset about this. I mean,
but I think I'd rather
laws
have
are written sloppily. Yeah,
I'd rather have good privacy, and not so much privacy legislation, but legislation that limits what companies can do with our data and what they can observe. And several other countries have implemented such regulations, and we as the U.S. seem to. I mean, it was the Cory Doctorow and shitification that really shined a light on the liberties that we give to companies that can spy on us, collect our data, do whatever they want with our data. But instead of proposing smart legislation that protects our data, protects our privacy, which is what I want to see, we get legislation that is trying to age-gate the internet. And I'm like, on one hand, like, I get it. But on the other hand,
I think it's intentional.
I'm like, why?
Good news, Paul. You're contradicting, or maybe you're not contradicting, the U.S. cybersecurity strategy. Because one of its 6 pillars is to tear down all these annoying security safeguards that we have to follow.
I think we're just too corrupt here to regulate the internet, and that's why you get these bad proposals that we're certainly going to fail to prevent there from being any regulation. But I think you're right. What we need to do is sort of imitate Europe. Europe's ahead of us. Let them work this out, and then we should copy their laws. But we'd have to do it when there's less corruption through lobbying. I mean, the big tech companies are just strangling all legislation.
I mean, it's unpatriotic to say that we shouldn't track every American everywhere they go. I mean, are you against medical care? If I don't know when you poop and how good your poop was, how do I keep track of your medical care? Sam, you're just unpatriotic. By the way, have I been flocked.com?
This is what Putin said.
Remind me to send my next Cologuard test to you, Josh.
Right?
Yeah.
No problem.
But this is what Putin said. He said you should end all anonymity on the internet, and that would stop a whole lot of crime. And he's right. It would. There would also be other effects we don't like, though.
But then privacy becomes a crime. It would create new crime.
Wait, privacy is not a crime?
That's the issue.
I don't know. I'm still stuck on your patriotic poop reference. Like, how does one crap patriotically?
Red, white,
and blue.
If you're pooping red, white, and blue, Sam, you've got real problems.
That's an immediate.
And I think that's a wonderful place to.
The patriotic episode.
Yes.
Paul, you have to rewrite the segment name.
It is patriotic. The U.S. Soccer team is playing tonight, and July 4th weekend, the 250th anniversary, is happening this weekend. So,
the patriotic poop it is.
Patriotic poop it is.
May your patriotic poop be wonderful. Happy July 4th, everybody.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for listening and watching this edition of Paul's Security Weekly. Larry, take us out.
Over and poop.